Yeah. I have 7 o'clock on Thursday, February 27th. The Whitman Board of Education. For a special meeting or regular?
No, it should be. It's a special meeting? It should be a regular.
Yeah, it says special, but it's a regular meeting. Regular meeting. Special meeting. It's a special meeting.
Yes, we know.
Part
of our regular sequence, so.
Yes. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Is everybody?
It's going to be
It is. You know, budget meeting is always special. Has everyone had a chance to look at the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I so moved.
Thank you, Pam. Is there a second? Thank you, Heather. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Is Pat on by any chance?
No.
Okay. Comments from the public. The board has set aside time at the beginning and end of regular meetings for public comments for members of the public to share their views on matters involving the local public schools and to help inform the board's decisions on such matters. 2 minutes will be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 15 minutes to any one subject. For the record, please also give your name and address. The board considers the views of citizens in its deliberations and welcomes and appreciates public comment. The board listens to public comment thoughtfully and with interest. The board, however, generally does not respond to public comment during board meetings by offering commentary or answering questions. The board also invites commentators and the public to contact the board or the superintendent directly with any specific questions or comments. The board, through the chair and the superintendent, may respond to questions and comments offered during public comment or shared directly. And in responding, may also direct members of the public to the appropriate staff member for a response. Are there any comments from the public?
Hi, I just have comments. Do you want me to go up there?
Whatever's easier for you, Peggy.
It's quick and easy. I'm Peggy Muir, WEA president, and I'm not here, well, not speaking as anything at WEA. On Tuesday, March 4th, I will be wearing red to school because I believe it's national. If you are for public education, wear red that day, and I hope you guys wear red. I hope we all wear red just in solidarity for public education. Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Hearing none. Consent agenda. Consent agenda includes the regular meeting minutes from February 11th and February 6th. Is any questions or comments on the consent agenda? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Thank you, Lori. Is there a second? Thank you, Nicola. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Board chair's report. Nothing specifically for tonight. We have a pretty robust agenda, so the discussion will flow through that way.
Excellent. We've just got a few things for you. So I want to just recap just before the break, I sent you a note on Saturday, February 8th, 283 middle school debaters from 14 schools competed in the Connecticut Middle School Debate Tournament. They debated the motion, the House believes that carbon capture is essential to fighting climate change. And so the middle school students representing Wilton did exceptionally well with 3 teams, and all of them won all of their rounds. And then the Middlebrook team, Sage G, Sophia W, and IOU placed first. And then IOU was also the highest scoring speaker that day. So congratulations to all of our middle school debaters, and we look forward to more. As Pam just commented a second ago, 2 days ago, we held our long-range planning session, and through which we invited a panel of 7 experts from across industry to come and engage with us around the role of artificial intelligence. And so there are 3 questions. How is artificial intelligence impacting your industry today? What do you anticipate that impact being 5-10 years out? And what should we be doing to prepare our kids? And those questions led to an incredibly robust conversation across 7. We had about 60 folks or so in the room. Lasted for about an hour and a half. It was incredibly engaging. And since Pam and Nick were there, I just invite you to weigh in if you want to offer anything.
I think it was very positive and optimistic, and a lot of the speakers were talking about AI being like additive rather than it's going to come and take away everybody's jobs and everybody's future. So that was good to hear. It was a great night.
It's interesting to me that they all had a very favorable idea of AI if we managed it. But they also talked so much about the social emotional learning that was so imperative for us to still do, because whatever that does, it still doesn't have that piece of it. And it takes a human being to make that and to manage that. And so if we don't have the social emotional learning in place, then I think it's too much of that and not enough of the person. And it just was very interesting that that was through all of them, they all said that and stated that in different ways, but definitely all stated that as an important piece of what we all should be doing.
That kind of connects to like our overall vision of the learner that kind of sits over, all the pieces that as a district we put together.
Right, and the recommendations, from across the panels were like focus on that. Part of the rationale was the technology again is changing so rapidly.
So scary.
We set up the night. We shared some information from the World Economic Forum's 2025 jobs report, and they survey employers all across the globe and then aggregate, kind of the anticipated trends and information. And so, what the 2025 jobs report is different because in the anticipated core skills for 2030, you see the emergence really strongly of all of these tech-related skills, and the core skills for 2025 are all soft skills that are so clearly embedded in our today. And so that the conversation really centered around, keep trying to help grow good human beings and so it was a really powerful conversation and great feedback. So a range of so for us, I found it really, I'm trying to bring you guys were there. Eric, if you guys want to weigh in as well. Jory.
I was just going to say, I piggybacked on everything about those SEL skills, but they talked a lot about those soft skills that are the idea of critical thinking, problem solving, the fact that you can have AI do everything it wants and can do with all the data, but it doesn't then help you analyze, and it really doesn't help that piece that is still that human aspect to it. So it was really Tom's comment about how isolating the fear of it is, how isolating AI can be, because it's this and that's all. So those were some of the comments.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought it was very interesting with some of the comments about how AI if you can use it as a tool effectively, it can really allow you to get through data that could take you days or weeks to get through, to really give you an idea on how to synthesize some of that information and then do the research to confirm the information you have is correct. I thought that was a fascinating part of the conversation.
It struck me that it was clear that there were no answers. You heard the intellectual firepower was amazing, right? And you heard a lot of them, I just don't know, I can't predict it. So I think we need to be patient with ourselves as we figure it out and navigate it for our students. And I sat there, and again, just to the power of that panel, I thought that can and probably will be our students in even a few short years. I think we're producing graduates of that caliber who we often say for a better world, and they're going to change the world. So I was just optimistic, and I thought this is something that our students could aspire to. And I'm not saying I'm committed, but we're working on a community panel, like a professional panel. I was sitting there right at first. I thought that really could be the panel, that group of people. Our kids could aspire to be at that level, whether it's in the legal profession or the medical profession. So So well done pulling them together, Dr. Smith. Yeah, it was powerful.
I think going back again to what Pam was saying, like it was very positive overall, but they kept coming back to that we can't lose that human touch. And I think that's just so important. We can use it to do the kind of the grunt work, right? But then we need to really analyze it and use it properly. But it was I just came away feeling very optimistic about it afterwards, and I wasn't really sure that I was going to feel that way at the end of it, but I did, and I just thought it was fascinating. And again, the group of people that you brought together, coming from all of those different walks and having the different viewpoints, I just thought it was very well done.
So we'll have Dom's going to lead the secondary team tomorrow to a more formal debrief. And a group of us will get come back with next steps and plans. And just continue to march forward in our quest to understand how we can be the human in the loop of the deeper into the century. And then the last piece for me. Yesterday, I forwarded you a K action alert. You may be aware that both houses in the state legislature overwhelmingly passed a bill to add $40 million to the excess cost reimbursement fund for this fiscal year. There was concern, it appears as though the governor's signaling that he may veto that. And so Kate sent out a note to, I think, all board members in the state with a link that you can use to send an email. So I sent a note that would just invite you and anyone else who's listening who's got some skin in the game here to send it to the governor and encourage him to sign this bill.
So
that accounts.
I was going to bring that up in the fiscal report, but just so everybody knows, you can go to the Connecticut.gov website and click on email Governor Lamont, which I did today, and it is House Bill 7067. And right now, we are slated to receive $941,988, which is 60% of the reimbursement. And if the formula carries through with that extra $40 million, our percentage would increase to 72.8, and it would be 1.143754. So it is a significant addition to this year's budget. And I would encourage everybody to go ahead and just write, your one sentence saying that you support the bill. Financials.
So I gave you both December's financial update, just because we didn't have time because we were doing budget, and then also January's financial update, just so that you can kind of see the progression throughout the year. And going back to the state legislature is working on getting that $40 million, which would definitely help. We are seeing that electric's coming in higher. I think that's across the state, right? All of us are seeing electric coming in higher. So we're kind of doing a little bit more of a deeper dive into that to make sure that we're receiving all of the credits that we're supposed to be receiving for the solar. Because there was some issues at the start of the year where the state was running behind on issuing those. We're kind of close. We're keeping a close eye on all of the expenditures. We're trying very hard not to put a freeze in place. Dr. Smith had communicated with all of the administrators and the secretaries to closely monitor their spending, and we haven't really seen that everybody's trying to abide by that, going through reviewing any open POs, closing things that we can close, just so that we have a better idea of what we have. And if there's any expenses that people are anticipating, that they're letting us know so we can. But overall, things are going pretty well.
Besides the electric, are there any particular lines that you're watching that might tip the point, or is it just kind of a general?
I think I think it's more general right now. The electric is probably the biggest concern at this point. Fuel's a little higher than what we had anticipated, but that may come down a little bit as well. And then there's going to be some shifts of things, right? Because we're moving things from transportation to cover other things. But I think overall, we're sitting pretty well. The we'll have another meeting in a couple of months, but insurance seems to be doing pretty well. We've been monitoring that pretty closely all year. So there isn't like anything that's like really jumping out. It's,
The insurance projections seem to have been pretty on target, so kudos to everybody. Yeah, that helps a lot.
yes.
And the February break passed without incident in any building?
I think so.
We're so excited.
Cider Mill got through the whole
So
break.
we're done, so I don't know about
So that was very exciting.
It's the happiest call I received all year.
Okay.
It's like, we're okay.
Any other questions for Lila financials? Thank you very much. So moving on to review and discuss. First up, we have the Cider Mill bell schedule update.
Can I do it from here?
Wherever you're happy.
Can you hear me from here?
Yes.
Fancy new system. So just to recap, from October, you know that we were really looking to go for a typical elementary schedule, Monday to Friday, and we've successfully done that. That's made a huge impact on our school, and we'll get into that. We have longer class blocks, which allows us to dig deeper into the curriculum for longer extents of time. And increased lunch and recess time, which came with some challenges, but we'll talk about that. And world language instruction is now integrated into the core curriculum for science and social studies. We had lots of positive feedback. Teachers are appreciating their extended instructional time. Students are benefiting from longer breaks. So let's move to the next one. So we did another staff survey in November just to get, once we were kind of running with the schedule, as you know, fall comes with lots of impact to the schedule, so we waited just to really get a better sense of how we were doing. And a few things came up. There were transition concerns, really between lunch and leaving and getting to specials. Just there were some overlaps, so that came up. The lunch wave timing and the recess duty teachers, that was something really important that we were trying to do, was to get a certified staff member out of recess, and we were able to get 2 out there in our initial version, and teachers felt like it wasn't really needed, so that came up loud and clear in the survey. So we made some adjustments kind of midway. We were able to add 5 minutes transition time to and from specials, which has made a huge impact for those teachers, and also just for the tenor of our hallways when you're picturing high number of students transitioning at the same time in the hallway. We were also able to put in a 5-minute buffer between the lunch waves, which did the same thing. I don't know, some of you probably been in our building between 10 and 1 during that lunch block, and there are a lot of students passing in that kind of main corridor, and so it really did help out quite a bit. We also adjusted the recess rotation so that teachers are now on a 6-week rotation, and then they get a reprieve, which gives a little bit more teacher time, which has been very helpful and well received. So we still have some challenges, as with any schedule, right? With the way it works, ideally you would love to be able to put each teacher with their students, right? So that you have the teacher, the adult and student connection. It's just logistically not possible. And there are a few occasions where teachers from one side of the building, although it's the same grade level, have to cover from the other side, and they don't really know the kids. So we have the benefit of having a certified teacher out there, but it's not always the one that we would rather. And we just not able to figure that out. And then also just because of we need more time, right? We've tried to provide transition time. The time has to come from somewhere. So the end of the day continues to be a struggle, specifically when we're partner teaching, and you may start off in one teacher's classroom, and then you have to end in another teacher's classroom. So we're still working through those challenges. But overall, the changes have been very positively received. Improving transition, scheduling, efficiency. We were doing this mainly to just
calm the tenor of the building down, and I think if you've spent some time in the building, I think it's a little palpable. So it's been a very positive change for us. We'll continue to refine. We anticipate going to a version of the same schedule into next year, but we're going to work on addressing some of the lingering challenges that we have.
It is a calmer building, for sure.
Yeah. We had some, I want to go back to the lunch recess thing. 30 minutes of lunch, not recess is fine. Lunch was a little bit of a challenge. It took us a little while to get used to, but the PTA has been fabulous. They gave us a grant where once kids are done and the tables have been cleared and no rushing, right? We have some indoor games that kids are able to pull out, and it's absolutely helped. So we're going to do a second version of that grant since the first one was successful.
So they eat lunch, some kids eat lunch really fast,
Yeah.
and then they're done in 5 minutes.
Yes.
And then,
We had a lot of bottle.
and then you have 25 minutes in which to do something with that.
Yeah. But some kids need time.
Right, like some kids take some time.
Yeah.
Some kids dine and some kids eat.
Exactly.
So the additional transition times, where do you claw that from? Mainly from the end of the day, or is it eating into instructional time?
The day, we really try to not take it from instructional time. Dave is, I should have started by saying, Dave Dudix is just a logistical genius, and I can't even actually tell you where he got the time, but he did not use it from instructional time, and he was able to somehow just offset the way the lunches ran.
Okay.
So that actually didn't take away time. We did lose 5 minutes, which after you did the lunch, kind of did take to give transition to and from special. That's kind of where that 5 minutes came from, but it's not like we took 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes. So somehow we figured that out, and I just said thank you.
As you should have.
That was very nice.
And then I was just curious, because now with the lunch and then recess, you're talking about like which teacher is out there with recess, so they no longer have like the teacher recess, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So I was just curious if like teachers have been expressing how, or noticed any different change in the way they're kind of getting with their classroom or understanding their kids because they don't have the eyes on at that time, or.
So we still have morning meeting religiously every time, which is the community building. And then every teacher takes their day, and when they need a movement break, so I mean, there are some, depending on which schedule you're running, right? You can have a heavy academic morning. There's not one class that's going without a movement break in there, where they're up. They might, in the nice weather, they might go outside for 5 minutes, they might do, go zen, whatever it is that they're doing, but.
I was just curious if there had been like any kind of reactions to kind of like classroom climate over like, or management.
It's a great question, but I
Yeah.
haven't heard anything.
You haven't heard.
About that. I think it's, remember the whole play cycle and everything, having an extended lunch recess, I think the benefits of that outweigh, they're building community and throughout workshop and everything, so.
Just in terms of
It's a great
like,
question,
you
but-
see, kid dynamics or interactions with each other and in other ways. I'm just curious. Hasn't popped.
So the kids go to their original classroom, leave their backpacks there, and then end up in another classroom at the end of the day, then they go back to their.
So in 5th grade, and half of 4th, we piloted something called partner teaching. And so in those cases, yes, not in 3rd grade. But it, depending on, a lot of times they're right next to each other. Next year, we are proposing, moving quite a few classrooms. Partner teaching had a positive impact on our world in teaching. A very positive impact, and so we will be doing that in 4th and 5th grade fully. To do so the most efficient way, we didn't make a lot of moves last year to make it work, but we will get our partner teachers
geographically next to each other, now that we know it's worked. So it'll be a little bit of growing pains having to make that one-time movement. So Kevin Smith, we will be needing boxes, but we will get back to everybody about that. So yes, but it's been beneficial, and next year we won't have some of these logistical issues, so.
It's probably more fun too to be a part of it.
It's been such a positive,
You're not so isolated.
kids, teachers, parents, everybody, yeah, it's been great. Good.
I definitely have been in the building, and I think that it's a much better environment. Like it feels just a little bit, the hallways don't feel as, I've been in transition, like it just doesn't feel as, overwhelming or frenzied. So I think that that's been a great improvement. And I know that there was concerns about kind of having those longer blocks, and I haven't really heard any, concerns that like merited that.
No, because in so many ways, they're really not that much longer. I think for like middle school, going to something like that would have felt a little different, but for elementary,
I think just seeing it out like that, you made people think, something other than what it was, but that the kids have really kind of taken to it, and I think it also lends to a calmer space in the classroom. So. Thank you.
We'll move up because I brought a friend.
Thank you, Jory. I appreciate it.
That was so Mr. Rogers.
Welcome to the neighborhood. Hopefully you all remember Michael Collins.
Nice to see everybody again.
One of our team leaders and also a WA rep, and he and I also met with you, if you remember, last spring when we were talking about introducing this. So it feels like it's appropriate that we come back again together. Right?
Nice.
So it's our partnership. Yes. Thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate it, Deanna. And thank you all for taking the opportunity to let us do this and give you an overview of what's going on. So just a quick overview of what changed, and this slide is really just meant to give you a little bit of reminder of some of the big changes. So for example, the 60-minute academic classes are now 48-minute academic classes. Still 240 minutes over the week, and that's because of the drop. I'll explain in just a second. Stride went from 41 minutes to 45 minutes, so a slight increase there. We had a rotating schedule for all the academics. That stayed the same. That seemed to be a very positive thing that we wanted to keep, so we kept it. Last year, one academic class would drop through the rotation, and now we don't have a drop. All the classes meet every day. And the flex period, which was about an 18-minute period, is now no longer in our schedule. And we increased time at the lunch from 30 minutes to 45 minutes. That's lunch and recess for us at middle school. Okay? That's just kind of a broad brush of all of that. Right? So the start of the year, I just started asking folks all over the place. It was in the hallway, it was in staff meetings, it was in instructional leader meetings, it was in the hallway, it was sitting down with kids at the lunch tables and just saying, how's it going? What do you think? What do you think of the schedule? And these are just some of the comments. It's just a complete shock. They all love the longer lunch, I guess. But children and adults alike seem to really like the rotating schedule. Adults would articulate a little more, just that idea of not seeing the children at the same time of day was great. Those morning kids and those afternoon kids, it's nice to just see them at different times of day, and that was certainly articulated. There was a little bit of a disparity on the drop. The children would explain either they like not having as many classes on a given day, or I'm going to pick on you for a second since Mike teaches math. Thank God I didn't have math today. I don't have to take math. So something like that. But the teachers were able to articulate how their lives were just so much better. So I'll let you even jump in on that, of just how life was so much better without the drop. The main reason is when you think about what organizing their lessons were like throughout the week, they would not only not be aligned and going with classes until Friday, but just the planning of coming in on Tuesday or Wednesday. Wait a minute, did we cover lesson this, or did we get to that? No, we didn't. Oh, that was the other class. So there's a lot of that in the planning, and some of the even the more organized folks that created those spreadsheets that were all color-coded to know what lessons were done where. Just even when you knew what they were doing, it looked like it was crazy. I don't know if you want to.
Well, yeah, especially then when you would factor in, God forbid, you'd be out for a day, and then that would throw the rotation completely off, and you'd have classes in different places, and just trying to play that constant game of catch-up in all the headspace it required. I think a lot of that early feedback in the fall was just folks really appreciated just knowing that today my classes are here, tomorrow I know based on what's happening today, we can be going here, and it just ran so much smoother, so folks really did appreciate that.
And so, to piggyback on that, other pieces of that, teachers articulating how much they appreciated seeing all of their children every day, as opposed to those drops where they wouldn't see them on a given day. When we had the flex, many teachers were using the flex time to try to circle back and touch base with some of those children that needed an everyday touch point, if you will. So just forward into this year, just the word was used by one of the teachers, just the vibe is just so much better in our building. And what they mean by that is just that it's calmer. It feels like I can get through my day. I'm seeing all my kids. There just is a cadence to our building now that just feels more normalized. The flex, I'll talk a little bit more in just a minute, but I don't know if you want to, Ian as a WA person who hears in a different way from folks, if you want to just talk about just the vibe or the emotions.
We've got good vibes at Middlebrook this year, just to put it simply, but yeah, folks, to go back to the drop and the flex, and there were so many balls in the air across last year, and it was so much headspace, as I mentioned, and folks just like that they're now able to predict what is happening on a given day. They're able to plan. We're going to talk about, we were able to find some pockets of time to give back to teachers, which was a huge help, which I think has also greatly increased, I think, morale and just the overall culture and feeling in each of the in the building right now as well.
So moving on to the next slide, Lucille. This was in the sense of more of a formal, gaining feedback in a more formal way. We did it in a form of a survey. And this is called not burying the lead, right? So when you look at results that are like this, that are so very favorable, it's a nice feeling to know that it's working in that regard, that when, we had certain, this is, I should give a public thanks and shout out to Kim Zemo, who helped put together these surveys, but 3 separate surveys, one for students, one for parents and guardians, and one for teachers and staff. And you can see the percent of favorable rating for, that's overall answering, 15 questions, I think it was, plus an opportunity for open-ended. And as Kim pointed out, you just don't see survey results that are this positive. You had a line for it.
I said, not since America's Opinion on Betty White have we seen results like this.
So it is very positive in that regard. There are some opportunities to drill down on a little bit this, and we will in a minute. But I just thought it was very telling that Kim, too, someone who's had a little more experience with surveys than I have, talked about you just don't see this kind of favorable rating. So it's a pretty good sense of what we're doing and how it's working is working in a very good way.
And I'll even just throw in, we've had a number of WEA meetings throughout the year, and even the fact that folks are just saying, I don't need to say things are great, thanks, is a testament to, I think, how people are feeling. Whereas even last year, we had a line out the door and we'd be there till 6 o'clock at night, just fielding questions, concerns, worries, anxieties, and just the fact that we're not getting that this year, we hardly get to talk.
So these next 3 slides really kind of break it out for the 3 surveys, and we just thought you'd like to know a few examples of what the questions were and the favorable rating for each one of them. We also, in that open-end at the end of the survey, some of the comments were around some feedback about passing time. And that renewed our efforts, the adults that is, to make sure that we are holding students a little more accountable. And what I mean by that is that students and staff might say, oh, the kids are coming late, or hey, it's taking them too long, or oh, they can't get from one end of the building in 2 minutes to the other end of the building. And I was throwing the you-know-what flag on that, saying, nope, come out in the hallway with me and see just how they're moving through the hallway, and they're busy. Hey, there's my friend Mike, and I'm going to stay at the bottom of the stairs and wait for him before I go to class. You get the idea. But it gave us an opportunity to renew that energy in our building to make sure that we're all collectively doing a better job with that. But you can see the positive responses for what feels like a calmer day, the preference for the 48 minutes, well over 80% there on both of those. Not so surprisingly that, relatively speaking, the lower favorable rating, if you will, relative to the drop class. And that's coming from the children saying, hey, I prefer not having the class. But even there still, it's still 62%, still very favorable. And the students liked not having one class for a day. The other thing that skews that a little bit is the survey being filled out by sixth graders who had no point of reference, if you will, in our building. Now, they did have somewhat of a reference, right, in terms of time of day in their day, what it looked like in fifth grade, but certainly not the Middlebrook schedule sort of thing. And then also, not so surprising, 99% of them saying, yeah, I'm all right with the more lunch period, more lunch time reset. I was surprised to see the two children who said no to that, by the way. I want to know who they are. Parents and guardians, you're going to see that the questions here are very similar, and that's done on purpose because we're trying to get some comparative data, and you'll see that the responses are very similar to what the students said. It makes me wonder if perhaps some of the parents maybe filled out the interview by calling their child next to them and said, hey, what do you think about this, or what do you think? And I'll be honest with you, as much as that sounds like it's a negative statement, I think I probably would have done the same thing if it was me. Hey, what do you think about it? Is that working for you or not? That sort of thing. As well as whatever anecdotal conversations happen at home. Interestingly enough, to see it's 71% favorable for the drop versus the kids saying, in the 60s. So, in the for what it's worth department, right? And then the last one, the staff, and you again see these numbers that are just so very positive, almost all across the board at 95% favorable. I'm satisfied that we found a sweet spot for the staff with our schedule. And it's worth noting that, and I told you I'd come back to that flex piece, you see that's a relatively lower number there, that the flex period itself was where a lot of our services were delivered. So whether it was support services through intervention or special ed or related services, that's where our support staff were actually seeing their children during that flex period. So there was concern when the flex period was going to go away, how are we going to do that? When are we going to deliver it? So that's what you can see. That's the other part of that too, is that there's fewer staff members that fit into that category. So the numbers aren't going to move, if you will, as much, knowing that there's about 100 staff members filling out the survey. Okay. If you want to say anything.
Yeah, and I know last June when we met, there was a concern about, especially math and ELA, is the curriculum going to be able to be delivered? And I'll just say anecdotally today, I was able to teach my entire lesson on balancing equations. We got through the cool down. I pulled a small group based on the results of the cool down, and that is the norm. That is not the exception. I also touched base with my math colleagues today, and I let them know I was going to be here. I said, give me the good, the bad, the ugly, what's going on. Everybody, again, overwhelmingly positive. They're saying we're able to synthesize our lessons, we're getting to the cool downs, we're covering it. In one of the grade levels, they're saying they're actually a week ahead of where they were last year. And they're saying that with that consistency of seeing the classes each and every day, they're feeling like they're getting stronger connections between the lessons themselves. So we're feeling very good. We're feeling confident that, I think, as Jory said, we might have hit the sweet spot here with the 48-minute schedule.
Okay. The next slide is really what I've referred to as perhaps the highlight for the staff, but it's an added bonus, and that is we shifted. This really had nothing to do with the schedule, but it was another change that we made that I think also speaks to that energy in our building this year. And that is that typically dismissal duty was in that 255, 320 zone. So about roughly 25 minutes on a regular basis that every teacher had some level of dismissal duty. However many kids were in their room. If you were lucky enough to have a room that had the first early buses, then you were lucky. But it's still, dismissal was a good close to half an hour's time. This year, what we've done is we've scheduled 3 teachers at a time in 2 areas. So dismissal now is done in 2 distinct areas. We have the front lobby and we have the cafeteria, and we have 3 staff members as well as admin on duty every day. And what that means for the teachers is they're assigned roughly about 13 times throughout the whole school year, about 3 times a quarter. And we also thought it made more sense to have them 3 days in a row in that quarter, so it's a little easier to then figure, do I have it today, one day, whatever. And again, thank you, Lieutenant Michael, for his help, because he helped arrange that whole layout and schedule along with Terry Ellis. They did a lot of the legwork on that. It's very much appreciated. But that is something that I've heard over and over again from staff members as being one of the biggest moves that we made that helped the energy in the building. Just that idea of knowing that come 2:55, it was so much more predictable about how they can use the next hour plus or minus of time in their day. And that's made a huge difference. You say?
In meetings, one of our special ed teachers always consistently says, I absolutely love this. We can't blow this, guys, because, when we think about the old schedule, we had that extra tutorial which folks were using for emails, phone calls, getting lessons ready, meeting with their IET. And I think that was hard transitioning to the schedule that we had last year where we didn't have that extra time to get those important items of the day done. Now we've found that time and we've been able to give that back to the staff so that they can get a head start on getting tomorrow's lesson ready, making those final parent phone calls, just getting the room ready for the day before they head out. So it's very much appreciated, and I know from a WEA perspective, we're also thankful because we know that while it was taken off the teacher's plate, it was added to the administrative plate, and our administrators are in those dismissal locations now every day. So we do recognize that, we do thank that. Our administrators in the building took one for the team for us so that we could have that time back.
You're welcome. The other part of that too is when we get to that point where it's a manageable group of kids, we'll release the teachers that are on duty. So it's pretty consistently done by 3:15 at the latest, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah.
So it's even when you are on duty, it's a lesser duty, if you will, right? So the last slide, just talking about next steps, is really just to recognize that we're not done. We realize that, while there is a good vibe and there is a good feeling and we're feeling good about what's going on, we recognize that we need to continue to monitor this, and specifically to monitor it and keep a close eye on our student performance. Because it's easy to say, hey, isn't this great? Life feels so much better. But we want to make sure that, specifically, one of the things that I was zoned in on was the instructional minutes for reading and writing. Relatively speaking, it was one of our lowest positive scores at 85% sufficient time for instructional reading and writing. So it's kind of a heads up, hey, let's make sure we're watching it, but it's also something that couldn't be better timed in terms of the curriculum work that we're doing right now. Because one of the things that we're looking towards and moving towards is finding that curriculum that can be delivered in a 45 to 48 minute period. So that's another piece to it that this is going to be, they're going to work very well in tandem with each other. I'm also, frankly, kind of holding folks to the screws to know that, hey, look, you wanted this, now prove that it's okay and you can do it, that you can deliver the curriculum in that shorter period of time and have the results that you all and we all enjoyed from last year. To continue that, we have a standard we don't want to back away from, but certainly something that we need to make sure that we're watching, and something I know that we collectively wondered when we made this decision and where we're moving forward. But I want you to all know that we are collectively all on that as well. I have complete faith in the staff. They've proven through their time just how good they are and how professional they are. And I'm confident that we'll get there. So, but I just wanted you to know that we're still monitoring that. In May, we'll survey the staff again. It'll be an updated version of this survey. Happy to come back and share those results with you as well. There's a slight day 5 stride adjustment that we're going to make. It does not have an impact on the greater schedule, but that's one minor thing that is not something that I want to worry or concern you about, but it's just a thing that I'm working with Janet Nobles, our instructional leader, for stride, but nothing that's going to have an impact on the whole schedule. And then probably one of my favorite updates that I've ever given the board is the last one, is that there's going to be no major letter changes to our schedule for 25-26. Something that, again, we believe we found that sweet spot, and really happy about that.
Yeah. You climbed a lot of mountains to get there.
Yes, we did.
A lot.
Yes, we did.
So I think this is all great. I can't remember why you went to I remember you coming in the spring and telling us that you needed to go back to 48 minutes, and I remember this discussion, but I can't remember what 60 minutes was not working, why 60 minutes wasn't working.
So the big driver of that was trying to have all classes meet in a given day.
Right.
So in order to do that, and also have all the classes meet on every day, it meant there's only so many minutes in the day to be able to do that. So all the classes could be met and then still had stride periods that were more than 30 minutes or a lunch period that was more than, or it couldn't have been any more than 30 minutes. So, and the other thing that also interrupted or interfered with is the prep minutes for teachers. It would have reduced prep minutes below. Not only do we believe they need it, should have, but contractually we've all agreed on that we're going to have. So
that was it. I went on a blank and I thought, why? Because I remember the meeting and I remember thinking how brave you were to come back and say, you know what, this is not working. We have to do something else. Because you had taken so many, you had worked so hard to get to the 60-minute, and there was so many. In the teaching and learning meetings that we used to have, it was just like every month, I felt so sorry for you because you would come and talk about it, and it was just such a hard lift. It's so complicated, and I get all that, so good for you for finding it.
thank you, Pam. I appreciate that.
I would like to just add something to your plate in terms of when you come back in May. Because I think that one of my kind of longer concerns has always been, to echo, my former colleague Debbie Lowe, is, are we protecting instructional time? So just kind of having an understanding about how many times per month we're running a special schedule and what that special schedule looks like in the school, and is it different by team? So like when you have even a half day, our team's doing running shortened, is every team running a shortened day, or are they doing, team-based work? Like what, is there kind of like a consistency in that, and kind of what the special schedule or schedules look like? Because I think as we kind of fall into like the shorter time and we get adjusted to that, so we're kind of like off the high and the being so great and we settle into things, sometimes like it's easy for time to get, clawed back for other things that are just as important but still can affect student performance. So I think it's like balancing those at the same time is just, becomes super important. And I think also kind of, you talked about the reading language, the reading and writing being combined, and I was thinking language, I was thinking ELA. And just so how that's working in that building, especially since we're doing an ELA curriculum review. And I think it would be really important to make sure that, there's whatever shifts or understandings need to be done, that happens accordingly. But I am heartened to hear that, because one of the big moves was the IM curriculum and the 60-minute time block. So that everyone, the scores are certainly meeting out as of right now. And kudos to everybody for that overall performance, because it's really been something to celebrate, but just maintaining and even still pushing forward, pushing forward. Yeah.
I'll just add to that, our foot is still firmly on the gas, and my colleagues, they are absolutely amazing. I've been in and out of rooms watching, and even though we've had all this success in the past, seeing the new strategies, the new moves everyone is trying each and every day, there is absolutely incredible work happening in all of these classrooms across the school, and it's really cool and it's really neat to see.
It is. I've been through myself and just what's going on. It's definitely between embracing the thinking classrooms and trying the new ideas. It really is spectacular, and your scores are certainly demonstrating, the diligence behind all that you guys are doing for our kids. So that is not, I didn't need to ask for that as it seemed like a loss of things. I just know that sometimes we, put our scale on one thing and then we kind of forget about the other thing. And so just, keeping our eyes on all the pieces.
I will just share, we absolutely have not lost sight of the fact that the interrupted schedules were a big deal to us. and we recognize those are instructional minutes that, it frankly was a big reason why we shifted so much of what we did with Stride. For those of you that were familiar with Middlebrook and how we used to do it, we would have a lot of interruptions in our schedule the week leading into a concert, and that was whole school interruption. And it was so important to eliminate that so that there was not that level of impact across all disciplines. And through the 5 X and Y day that we set up, we've created a new opportunity where those rehearsals are happening differently. So it doesn't require that kind of impact on the academics. You can back me up on what we talk about at instructional leader time whenever there's talks and conversations about, we have this next new shiny thing that we want to bring in and do an assembly for. I'm the one saying, no, we can't because, and this is why, and we're not going to touch it. We can't have yet another interrupted schedule. We also coordinated efforts this year so that when we do have those half days, that's where we've really front-loaded a lot of the SEL work and the teamwork, knowing that it's going to be a shortened period anyway. Why not take the opportunity to really build in those times specifically for teams, not only to plan and work around, but also then we're not in effect messing up a regular instructional day. So instead of interfering in a 48-minute period a day, we're taking the classes that would have otherwise been a 30 or 35-minute class, and that's when we're doing the teamwork. Okay, so I'm with you on that.
No, thank you, I agree.
Absolutely, very much so.
Yes.
And that is absolutely very important to us. And what's nice is when we do have schedules that are going to interfere, I've had teachers start giving me a hard time about, wait a minute, I need that time for it. And, we've had yet another interruption. The conversations we had recently about the half-day schedules and where they land on our calendar. And folks saying, hey, wait a minute, please don't have too many that are in this time of the year, that sort of thing. So,
and that's kind of the overall balance that I know sometimes, like when we settle into, a more of a routine pattern, we can sometimes, forget about like small impacts having large effects.
the Middlebrook staff is a very proud group, and they're very proud of the results of those kids, and they want to keep that going too.
They should be.
All of those are interconnected with each other, so
Yes.
believe me, that's something that's on all of our minds to keep going that way.
Well, I'm heartened to hear all of this at the table because I've been through it since the beginning of the schedule, and I was, a little bit nervous about, performance and moving away from those 60 minutes. So I'm happy to see the performance and hear the positive vibes as well. So thank you all for your hard work.
Ask a question. Were there kids who were able to take who received services, who were able to take a foreign language last year that have had to drop it this year as services being slotted into the foreign language slot?
Blanket generalization, no. Are there particular children, depending on what their servicers may have had to do that? I wouldn't be able to speak to that so specifically.
There's less kids able to take a foreign language this year.
No, more, because we have the intro class, the exploratory class. So the reason I'm hedging on my answer here is really because depending upon the child and what the level of support that they need, how many skills-based classes do they need to take? And therefore, when are they available to take the exploratory world language class or not? So depending upon a given child's needs will dictate how much time they're able to participate in the exploratory class.
How many kids are doing the exploratory language, the introduction to?
Roughly about 50 at grade level, but not even, well, it's not even that many at that 8th grade. Probably it's 50, 25, 20 by the grade levels. In terms of the number of kids I did that backwards, with the children that have some level of support services, so that those children that don't have those support services are then, the other side of that is they're in the world language class. Because at that time period, they're either going to one place or the other for some level of support or into the world language class.
And a math question while you're here. Because we've always heard I take 60 minutes to do a lesson, is there some part that you're able to deliver in less time? Is it like independent practices, taking up less time than the 60 minutes would have you believe you needed?
So over the years, we've found ways to streamline and collapse some of the activities. Some of the activities were redundant within a lesson, so we found efficiencies along the way. And also, we've just found that, sometimes illustrative math will have an activity scripted as a 25-minute lesson, when in reality, when you're there, after 15 minutes, the kids are already there, they've arrived at the idea, so you're able to synthesize that part of the activity and then move into the next. So it's a little of both, out of both buckets.
Any other questions for Joanna and Michael?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Keep up the good work. Under possible action items, 24-25 district calendar change.
So I'm asking the board for motions and to cancel the 181st day of school. So I wrote to you back in February to let students play nicely. So I was stuck with some savory choices. And so the best choice of those that were available were to upgrade the teachers and keep the kids at home. So we have one of those because we have an extra day. The option to not do that is going to cost us $262,020. So
let's do it.
What should we do?
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Yeah. And seriously, the professional learning that day was vital. So to cancel the whole day for everybody, we would have to make up the day visual moments, just not good instructional time, and we lose the PD.
It was a good use of the day. Yeah. Out of all the unfortunate choices, I think that was the best choice to have made and how to use that day.
You can't win with any of it anyway. It's just.
So, Heather, would you like to make a motion to cancel the 181st day of school? So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Pam. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries unanimously.
May I just ask calendar question? The last day of school right now is.
I think it's Monday the 16th.
Yeah.
So, hold on, I can tell you.
That's what it says.
Yeah, Monday.
Yes.
And graduation.
Bob's going to come forward at some point with a proposal that Saturday, 14th.
So if we don't have any more snow delays.
Graduation's going to come.
Whether we have.
I've been saying to people that is the projected date right now. We got a few days.
It'll come to the table.
We're gonna talk very soon. I thought we'd get through this board meeting. I think for the next one, I think we should have a recommendation.
Very good.
Fantastic.
That's the projected date.
Yes. So, for everybody out there listening, the projected is very important. The T-SNAP bonding proposal.
Great, so here, this is, I think, more of a formality than anything else. So I'm asking for a motion from you to accept the recommendations from the T-SNAP committee. And as you know, KGD came through last year and put together a very comprehensive report and prioritized the list of what needs to be done. Jeff Pardo, working alongside Jose, has kind of spread those out and then came up with a list earlier this winter. Tony Boucher being the T-SNAP committee. And so that committee, in addition to the Board of Ed facilities, looked at town facilities. And that group together came to consensus and that's in front of them. So ultimately the Board of Selectmen will select what goes forward bonding for this for fiscal 26, but I think it's important that the board weigh into a vote affirming that you're in support of what the recommendations are.
And Can I just ask a question? Does this round reflect all our priority one recommendations?
Not all priority one for fiscal 26.
Priority one for fiscal 26.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I want that one back.
Okay.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, the big
Does anybody have any questions?
Does the Board of Finance have to decide how much, if they want to bond this much?
The Board of Finance doesn't set that goes straight from the selectmen to the town. So the Board of Finance can set the appropriation for the Board of Education budget and the proposed.
So the Board of Select will move forward with this amount of bonding, or that's still?
That's to be determined yet. It's not that
I believe that's their next item coming up after they settle their budget.
Reading the tea leaves, you're confident?
No, I don't have anything, but I think, you know, setting that aside, here's what's important, and I think, you know, apropos to this conversation, we know we have needs, and a lot of thoughtful people spend a lot of time looking at the various needs, and that's the list. And I think it's really important that this body supports it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What actually makes it to the referendum, I think, is a separate question. So we can.
I do agree that it signals these are key priority items, and they've been recommended by the Two-Step Committee, which was diligently looked at all the issues, including had members from the Board of Finance and our financing capabilities as well. And I think that normally we do, vote to, as regular practice, we vote on what bonding priorities we want to recommend to the Board of Selectmen, whether they follow our recommendation is their prerogative. But I think I personally support this list as it relates to the Board of Ed facilities, and that would be, I think, the vote that we would be looking to take. Is there a motion to accept the recommendations of the T-STEP Committee as to fiscal year 26 bonding priorities for the BOE related facilities? Thank you, Nicola. Second, Lori. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. The community steps lease.
So I'm going to ask the board for amend the motion slightly from the action that was in the thing. I'm going to ask the board to make a motion to authorize you to execute the lease. The lease is not fully prepared yet, so I thought I would have it this week and I don't. Pending that we're kind of finalizing that, hopefully by next week, and then we can move forward with the rest of it. Put out for a couple of months now, so you know the story.
It's a great day.
All the way.
Totally.
Yeah, no.
And very exciting. Yeah, so I'm still kind of on track though to maybe for a March, April, or.
Yeah, so that we would execute the lease, and then the building owners got some interior work to do, and I'm not sure how quickly that stuff happens, but we're ready to move once the space is ready.
Okay.
And so I fully anticipate that, we would be in, sometime, certainly before the.
Any questions for Kevin on the community steps lease? Is there a motion to authorize Superintendent Smith to execute a lease agreement for the community steps program?
So moved.
Thank you, Pam. Is there a second? Thank you, Heather. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. I'll be looking forward for an invitation to that.
Great, so the next one here is another item we've been talking about for a very long time. I'm asking the board for a motion to approve the purchase of a van, $56,000, to develop our transportation program. So this will enable us to purchase a 10-passenger van, and we can get going right away.
Are there any questions for Kevin on this proposal?
I have a question for Kevin about the maintenance and repair. Do we take that on, or do we outsource that, or who actually does it?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the second part.
No, do we have a maintenance schedule, and who actually does it?
Our trucks that we currently own, I think that's Jose, where it's somewhere.
Somewhere over in this area?
Yeah.
No, like what employee is responsible?
Oh, I would have our maintenance staff. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the purchase of a van to develop an in-district transportation program?
So moved.
Thank you, Lori. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pam. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Great, it is, this is great. And so the next one, typically I would come to you with sort of the last meeting, a full list of gifts and grants and donations, but this is such a big one we'll do today. So I'm asking for a motion for the Board of Education to accept the grants in the amount of $95,534 split between the Stroud Family Foundation and the Boucher Family Foundation. Since we were here this week, we went over and met Bianca, toured the space, kind of walked through the whole grand design, and so everyone's really excited about this. So this is an easy one.
Very cool. Very, very cool.
This is easier than the 181st Thank you very much to the Boucher and Stroud families. This is an extraordinary gift and opportunity for our schools and our kids and the local community. So really another ribbon cutting to look forward to and the projects that will come out of that. Perhaps even maybe we'll have them in school next year talking about what they're doing. Is there a motion to approve the gift and grant of $95,534 for the Innovation and Financial Center proposal? Thank you very much, Heather. Is there a second? Thank you, Nicola. All in favor? Aye. Carries unanimously.
This one's far less interesting. Asking the board for a motion to adopt the revised policy 6141.321 student responsible use of district technologies. I explained what months ago. Our policy was a bit dated, and so we took the shift in language. So replaced the policy and then updated the regulations.
If I can just make a request to make sure that the revised and last review dates reflect today's dates. That'll help us keep track as we move forward. And on the regulation as well, for last review. And this is the second read of this policy. I think that that's all our questions and concerns. Are there any additional remarks?
No.
Is there a motion to adopt policy 6141.321, student responsible use of technology? Thank you, Pam. Is there a second? Thank you, Lori. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Great, I'm asking motion carries. I'm asking the board for a motion to adopt the superintendent's proposed budget for fiscal year 26 in the amount of $96,068,000.
This one had a little bit of a larger number attached to it. Some of the other things we've been talking about tonight. I'm going to open it up for any conversation, discussion, kind of questions. Sometimes when we get to this point, it kind of gets quiet just because we've spent months on it now. But I don't want anyone, out there to think that the silence reflects kind of like a lack of, diligence and hard work behind it. But we've just been living with this for a really long time.
Yeah.
Living with it in like a positive way, because this year I think has worked in a very extraordinarily efficient and productive
and collaborative manner with all of us at the table and also our colleagues at the Board of Finance as well. So I just, to, Lila and Marianne, who I know who, behind the scenes make all this come together, and Kevin and, all the administrators and the cost centers have really made this a budget that I think that we can feel works for us and advances our priorities in a fiscally disciplined and responsible manner at the same time. So I'll open it up to anybody else. Oh, hi, Pat. We're just opening it up for comments or questions before we call, a vote at the table. So if anybody has any anything they'd like to address or talk about, please feel free to ask away.
I just want to make a comment thanking everyone who was involved in this process, including all our board members. It was a highly collaborative, insightful, and informative process, and I just want to say thank you to everyone.
Thank you. I'm going to call for a motion then, unless anybody else would like to, and then I'm going to just give once we hear the outcome of the vote, I'll give some final.
Yeah, it's great, and we've managed yet again to do so much with hardly any more dollars, it seems. As someone very attached to the fine and performing arts, I just just have concerns that the capital improvement plan is not going to work fast enough for certain things in the Clune Center, the sound and lighting engineering that's going on in there. So this is great. However, I have concerns about the aging of some of our facilities moving forward.
Furniture. It always takes a hit.
Yeah. So I have to say, those are going to be really well during carpet time.
No, it's a good budget. It's a very clean one, and it certainly addresses a lot of what needed to get addressed, but there was a lot of things that didn't get in it. And, the whole facilities thing, I think, is really the tricky one, because we just keep kicking that down the road and the furniture down the road, and that's going to probably come to bite us eventually, if not pretty soon.
Is there a motion to adopt the fiscal year 26 budget proposal request of $96,968,334, representing an increase of $3,730,175, or 4% over the current year's budget?
I so moved.
Thank you, Pam. Is there a second? Thank you, Lori. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at motion carries unanimously. I would just, in general, would like to say that now we have a board ed budget. This is our budget. It's no longer Kevin's proposed budget. So I'd like to thank Kevin and the administrators and the staff. Special thanks again to Lila and Marianne in the business office. I'd like to thank all of you sitting at the table as well for your hard work and dedication towards this. I'd also like to thank BOF Chair Matt Ramondi and BOF members for their collaboration and partnership, especially with the guidance setting process. While guidance was set slightly below what BOE would have preferred, it was done with transparency and understanding of both our current tax environment and education commitments. With that in mind, both Kevin and his team and this board dedicated ourselves to reaching a 4% budget. It wasn't easy, it was important, and the budget that passed tonight is at 4%. This budget is transparent. Every dollar is accounted for. The budget is also carefully considered. It provides for both performance and opportunity at the highest levels. It maintains current class size and provides for our teachers so we can deliver a rigorous and challenging education experience from the academic core to the arts and athletics, and advance the vision of the learner for all our students. This budget also recognizes our commitment to infrastructure maintenance, both physical and technological. We take our role as tenants seriously, providing the best possible physical and technological environment possible, given our resources and ability. The district does not own the buildings. We cannot bond, and we cannot carry multi-million dollar, multi-year expenditures. Therefore, I fully support and encourage the Board of Selectmen to create a school and municipal infrastructure fund as proposed by First Selectman Lynn Vanderslice prior to her departure, and then discussed and supported by BOF Chair Matt Raimondi and the BOF on January 9th, 2024 with their full unanimous support. This new fund can carry over annually for the purpose of addressing needed improvements in school and municipal infrastructure. Funding the account would fall under the purview of the Board of Finance, and the BOS would oversee the spending. I also fully support and encourage the town to use our current bonding capacity. Bonding up to our current debt service tax level will allow us to advance our large infrastructure needs at current tax level funds. The BOF budget survey will be released next week and provides another avenue for the public comment on the budget. I encourage all citizens to fully engage in the budget process. The public hearing on the BOE budget is scheduled for March 26th. The Board of Finance has set its budget deliberation meeting dates for April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd as necessary. Bonding projects will be presented to the BOF regular meeting scheduled for April 8th. The deadline for the BOF to recommend a budget to the annual town meeting is April 15th. And the fiscal year 2025 annual town meeting is set for Tuesday, May 6th, with adjourned voting following the meeting on Saturday, May 10th. Thank you all very much. It's been one of the smoother budget seasons that I can remember. So took us a lot to get here. So I want to recognize everyone's hard work. So thank you. Comments from the public. Hearing none and seeing none in the room. Just future business and information items. We'll have a regular meeting on March 6th and then again on March 20th. And the public hearing on the BOE budget for the BOF will be on Wednesday, March 26th. And that takes place at the Middleborough Cafeteria at 7 o'clock. Meeting is adjourned at 8:15.
Whoa, there was one discussion.
Take care.